Okay, so welcome back. Okay, so whoever's registered for the parallel session needs to go across the hall to the other room. If you're staying, you're with this room. Okay, so we're moving on, obviously, to the second part of our day and our first interactive roundtable. There's another one later on. We have 5 distinguished panels here, as you can already see, and the panel will be moderated by Maria Luisa Lapodi. She's a project manager at START Youth Culture Initiatives in Greece at the Goethe Institute. That is actually in cooperation with the Robert Stiftung Foundation. Or the Robert Bosch Foundation. Okay. So she's an interior architect and cultural manager. I need to introduce her properly, so just bear with me. By training, a successful designer of custom-made interior spaces, the founder of a failed startup, speaks volumes about you. A manager of projects for arts and culture non-profits, a blogger, and much more. So Maria Luisa is interested in collaboration platforms and disrupting traditional processes for social and economic growth. So finally, I can defer the moderating to somebody else. Maria Luisa, you can introduce the panelists and the floor. Yeah, absolutely.
Hi, hello everyone, and welcome back after a short break. So our interactive roundtable is about innovation ecosystem, and I have the honor to present to you 5 great people, and actually 4 generations of professionals. I was checking your profiles. But this is like a real richness in our roundtable, and I'm really glad. So I'd like to start right away. I'll start from here. So first I'd like to introduce to you Vasilis Papakonstantinou. So he's the chairman of INTEF Greece and works at the Eugenides Foundation, non-profit organization dedicated to the promotion of science and technology in Greece. He sits on the board of Vioril SA, a chemical engineering and biotech company, and Phasmatech SA, a startup company developing mass spectroscopy technology. Right? So next is Adrilis Angelidis. So we're talking about an innovator entrepreneur. He's the founder and president of Vidavo, an innovative e-health SME in Greece. And he's the president of the Alexander Innovation Zone, managing the organization responsible for the entire plan development and realization of the initiative of the Thessaloniki Innovation Zone. So, lady, we have Christina Melander, who is the program director for the Danish Design Center's Focus on Design and Business Development, which explores the potential of design methods to meet businesses' needs to develop new products, solutions, and markets. Next, we have Nikos Efthimiadis, chairman of KEPA hosting us today. Thank you very much. And also chairman of Redestos, Efthimiadis Agrotechnology Group, established in 1935. And Mr. Efthimiadis sits at various boards of important organizations in Greece, so a lot of experience to share with us. And finally, we have Panos Koumoudos, who has a bachelor's degree in political science and a master's degree in IT management. In 2013, he was a co-founder of the NGO Creativity Platform, an initiative created with a bottom-up approach with the aim to research and support the cultural and creative sectors of Thessaloniki. So that's us, and I'd like to start right away by inviting Mr. Angelidis and Efthimiadis. In your roles as entrepreneurs, first of all, besides everything else, to share your experience in inserting design into your company's operations. So So that's my first thing. I mean, we're talking the whole day about how businesses and the ecosystem work, but I'd like to start with something very humble. How do you do it? What's your experience?
To you.
Thank you. Good afternoon. So, designing is a process which goes well beyond the aesthetics, and that is that we found out the hard way by failing again and again, and in the process realizing that we need to do a more systematic approach in terms of how we design our products, but also in how we design our processes, both internal processes in the company and external. For an SME, it's not an easy thing to do, especially 14 years ago when we started. There wasn't so much information around, or we weren't so eager to find this out. I'm not sure which of the two. We started by creating, and what we do is mostly software, but we started by creating what we thought as engineers was a good thing, only to find out that this didn't serve our purpose, which is people wouldn't buy it. And so I listened this morning a very nice quote, which totally and in a very good way explains it. Design is foundation and it is not decoration. So we thought design is all about aesthetics, UI, UX, how you interface it. No, it's more than that, and I think it's the back end when you design a product that is more important than the front end. And I'll give you just one example, and I'll stop there. We systematically apply what we call security by design. So when we design our products, we employ security from the very first moment, so that at the end, what we have created, we know that is a secure product. And another thing, which I haven't found around a lot, we apply regulation by design. We are in a market, the healthcare market, which is very highly regulated. And what you sell, you have to certify it. And we found, as I said, the hard way that if you don't do it from the beginning, if you do not design your product so as to meet the certain regulations in the market that you want to introduce it, then you have to do it afterwards, and that is costly, frustrating, it introduces delays, and creates an environment that is not so good. So, along the years, we found out that design is more of a culture within the organization rather than a process.
Well, let me say, since I'm the older generation, that I was born about 10 years after our company was established, and took over 35 years after. I'm the second generation, so my dream was to turn our imports into production, into local production. And I spent about 10 years in trying to understand what should my products be, or what should our services be. We are in the agricultural business, agricultural technology business. So at a certain stage, we made a decision that it had to be a holistic approach to agriculture. So we have to invest in several sectors where we could give a final solution to the farmer from the time that he was putting the seeds into the soil until the time that he was selling the product. At that time, that was in the early 90s. That was a very bad decision at that time, because most of our agriculture was based on subsidies from Brussels. So all the farmers were planting what they thought had the best subsidy, but still, time was going on, we started investing in the areas of chemicals, fertilizers, seeds, genetic material, new varieties of plants. Then we moved into laboratories of certifying food. Then we moved into the food itself, producing vegetables, etc., etc. The point I want to make is that I did not really, I was not trained as a designer, but it seems that the example, what I will tell you, will probably make me one. I was just discussing this with a lady here. But so what we really did at the late 2010, when subsidies were not really the key issue of what to produce, then farmers decided that they probably had no market to sell until companies that followed the design methodology that we followed told the farmers, look, you've got to plant your hard wheat because there is a beer manufacturer that wants that wheat. So you have to grow that kind of wheat that is going to be taken as a raw material by the beer manufacturer. Then you have to grow your cotton not because you are getting a subsidy from Brussels, but because there is that spinning mill that needs that cotton, and he wants that cotton to be long, or it wants that cotton to be red eventually. And so on and so forth. So we found ourselves in a situation where we modeled our strategy by understanding more and more what does the customer want, not necessarily our customer, but the customer of our customers. So the farmers, we are coming eventually in a position where we can offer a holistic approach to our farming in Greece, of what kind of tomatoes should they grow when this tomato is inclined to go to Holland, and how different it will be when it has to go to India. All this is, it seems that it is working, it's working well, it's a new approach. It has changed our lives, it has changed our company. There are 10 of them all in a group, but each one has their own ideas, but all of them together work in what we call agriculture from the soil to the shelf of the supermarket. So now we find that we get more and more customers with that, because there are a lot of either farmers or industries or supermarkets that say, because it goes the other way around as well. A supermarket says we want to have potatoes especially for frying. So those potatoes for frying have to be of a special variety, and they have to find special farmers that will produce these potatoes that will be certified, and finally go to the out to the kitchen certified. So this is the way I could describe what we have done. And I wonder, am I a designer, CEO, or John?
Thank you so much. I mean, I've heard regulation by design, which is very important, and then customer-centered design of processes, which is again very interesting. So now my next question is for Mr. Edmundo. And I'd like to ask you from the creatives side about the penetration levels of designer services in Greek companies. So, if you know, how many people in Greek companies employ designer services, and maybe how, what kind of focus?
Out of necessity, I would drag the question to a different path, because I think we touched a bit the measurement issue in the last session, and the total lack of evidence, scientific evidence that really measure and actually analyze and report on the penetration of design in structured companies, big companies, and so on and so forth. And there is a paradox there, because, for example, in Thessaloniki, we speak about a strong design community right from the zeros. but this has the form of personal experience that we know some people that are doing well. They're getting their awards, they're getting some nice contracts for big companies from abroad. But we haven't gone through an analysis to really understand what are the inner structure of the sector, plus what is the penetration to different industries. What I can share to the discussion is our experience as an NGO with our small projects that take the approach of not penetrating in a sector, in a different sector, but meeting with other sectors. So it's a crossover section and point, and more specifically in the agro business, but not in the big level, in a very, very small level. But actually it's becoming a huge boom in the last few years. Data say that 60,000 new farmers are going every year into the field and trying to create new products and cultivate and so on and so forth. So we're talking about, yeah, it's good numbers. So we're talking about these start-uppers in the agricultural business that create an Eldorado design issue. So it's a great opportunity. But with the findings that we have come to conclusion is the following. First of all, this market is characterized, first of all, of total lack of knowledge from the side of the producers on the utilitarian use of design, how to incorporate that into a branding strategy and what this means for business modeling. So they need training about that in order to evaluate their own performance according to what is the branding strategy when they want to put a new product into the market. Also from the other side, the design sector itself is also a bit chaotic, and you can find all sorts of possibilities. You have creative studios, you have freelancers, you have grey economy, people that they didn't manage to exist as a professional, so they closed their books and they work from the house. And also you have these parachuters, which are the people that they have a seminar in a design program and they believe that they became a designer. And in a situation that there is only these big numbers of producers and new products every year, there is room for everything. My personal view is that there should be some structure out of it. The sector itself has to create some standards in order to provide quality assurance in the service provision. I'm talking about design services. And especially when we're talking about food, that it's a very sensitive product, has legislation behind it that you have to respect and meet. These are difficult issues, and the creative sector itself should make better. So, I don't know if it was useful, but this is what we get to understand.
So I think it's been really useful. It's really hard, as you say, due to the lack of numbers, to know how much design offices penetrate in Greek businesses. Yet an example with a sector which is getting more and more promotion in Greece, the agricultural sector now is quite useful for us. I'd like to jump now to some maybe design thinking discussion with Ms. Melander. So, we've read and we hear in various discussions that design thinking is well embedded in Denmark and public authorities are actively supporting the methodology. Now, if you can tell us a bit about how it started from your experience, about the history, about maybe barriers that design had to overcome, so that companies would understand, in exactly the words that Manu said, the real meaning behind it, and what is the most important lesson you've learned, which you would like to share with us?
So the history part, big question. So I've been with the Danish Design Center since 2000, and the first ever national design policy was launched in 1997. So I always think that I was kind of, being part of that journey ever since the first day. There's a key reason why we in Denmark, or the Danish government, founded in the Ministry of Economics, decided to actually have a national design policy. And that is not just because we had a great inheritance of design back from the products of the 50s and the 60s, but because we could actually see over the 80s and the 90s that design started to be integrated in many other different industries. It seems like there were a connection between companies using design, of course in the furniture industry and the lifestyle, but also to a great extent in the pharmaceutical and the medicine industry. So kind of that was basically, this is a short version of why the Danish government started to say, what are we going to survive on in the future? But it seems like we have some key strengths within the area of design. And so looking back to say, so what could be some of the highlights and the reasons why we in Denmark maybe are where we are at this point. I think one big thing to mention was something called the Design Icebreaker Scheme, but which was a grant scheme that we launched, and we had it for 3 years. And I do have a lot of opinions about schemes and subsidies and all that, but however, in 3 years, there were launched 420 different design projects in companies, together with more than 120 designers. And from that, we had a huge number of case studies of how design can be used in every kind of industry, and for products, for services, graphics, experiences, and so forth. So the scheme in itself was maybe not the most relevant, but it was the foundation that we had afterwards, that no matter what situation, more or less, but if you were a supplier having difficulties in finding ways of how could you have a new position in the value chain, there were the stories, because I think the key here is the stories. The next thing, and it's of course also a huge debate on why should we measure and should we measure, and I'm happy that my friend at the front row who don't think we should measure the hell out of everything, I kind of agree. However, I think that we need to understand what the system we are in, and we are in a system where people understand numbers, policymakers understand numbers, business understand numbers, because in 2001 we had a change of government, and this government, they didn't want to support design anymore. And one key element in actually changing their mind was that we tried to measure the impact of design for the first time. And you can always argue if that's at all possible, but I would say, those key figures somehow is getting the attention. I don't think it's changing actually people's behavior, but it is extremely relevant. And 2014, the Design Management Institute in the US, they launched a huge research, and they could say that companies that are very design-centric, they outperform everybody else like 240% or something. That's very American numbers, though. I don't think an SME in Denmark would, find that reliable. However, it's just interesting to see how that number has been used all over, the globe, because it just gives the attention. So I think that is absolutely key. So I think that. So having those stories is important. And you could say from a Danish perspective, right now, you would argue that we actually don't have a national policy on design at the moment, but design has been so well integrated in many other, in politics and strategies. We have design more or less well embedded into innovation funds. So in Denmark we have 2 national funds, something supporting green development, but also the maturing fund. And I think it was also for a reason of course, we don't want design to have this own little circle. We want it to be integrated of a bigger system. So it's nice to have money to support design, but it's even more nice to actually have design written into all the other funds that is supporting innovation. And right now, my colleague Eben, who's sitting in the back, she's managing a huge program that's funded by this foundation, where we actually partner up, companies, designers, and others, and we do experiments. We actually just ask them to create a brief where they are going to look at how can they use design for completely new business models, completely new products. And I think that's very interesting because nobody knows what will come out in the end, whether it will be a new company or whether it will be a new service or what it will be. But I think that having the opportunity to actually fund something that we cannot measure is very, very powerful, and it's a very powerful signal also from our ministry.
It is, it sounds
yeah. And I could go on. Yes.
Thank you very much. I think that one of the concerns I had about today's roundtable was that we don't always focus on what's happening outside Greece, but we can take some lessons from other countries' experiences and see how those adapt to our reality. Because very often we hear about models from other countries that can never be applied or adapted to Greece. So I think that at this point there's a really great lesson learned, that having the foundation and the structure is what can help us. And I want to go from this point and ask, Mr. Papakonstantinou, Angelidis, and Ευθυμιάδης, now in a different role and position, in that as a catalyst in connecting companies with various networks. And I'd like each one of you to comment on how Greek entrepreneurs, to your opinion, can come closer to leveraging the benefits of design, and how your respective structures can act in this direction. So if you just give us, your approach to either MITEF or, the Innovation Zone or TEPA, how would that be? Do you want to start?
Okay. Good afternoon. First of all, let me say that I'm mechanical engineering by training, which means we are the guys that we have to design stuff in order to be made. And actually, until today, I've never thought of myself as an engineer, as a designer, but it's a good opportunity. So, a few years, the reason we started MIT Enterprise Forum Greece, you could say it is to induce entrepreneurship by design, because we realized that about until 2012, a lot of people in Greece were aspiring to become entrepreneurs. I mean, that's part of our DNA. And they were coming up with different ideas that they were very relevant to their skills, but not necessarily relevant to what was going on in the world. So we turned to MIT Enterprise Forum because MIT has the model that entrepreneurship is a learned art. And we try to bring an organization here that has a mission to inspire, connect, and coach technology entrepreneurs. So our main goal is to create opportunities that will enable young, or not that young, technologists to come up with problems faced by others that their technology or their skills can solve. I think one of the big differences between at least Greece, but I guess it's a European thing compared to the US, is a lot of discussion takes place in various environments. You have an idea, you discuss with somebody else, you are not afraid about the protection of that, you don't really care. I mean, so bouncing off ideas, like somebody said, ideas having sex, you produce offsprings that they are of more interest. So our goal at MIT Enterprise Forum is to do these kind of things, and we do that in 3 different ways. First of all, we run an annual conference which will take place on November 5 this year in Athens, called Start Smart, and there we bring people from abroad that have gone through the process of turning usually from researchers into entrepreneurs, and there they tell their stories, how they did that, and give the feeling to the other people that there's a way, and you can learn and you can try. Then we have various activities we call technologies that matter. We are blessed with a lot of skill sets. Actually, the late Professor Detouzos said that Greeks are made for the knowledge economy because we are not going to be like the Swiss or the Japanese. Like, we cannot set up big lines of production because, but in the software economy or other kinds of economy, you can just produce something, set it out in the market, get feedback, and reiterate. Of course, unless it's in the health sciences where you run the risk of killing people. So we organize what we call technologies that matter, and we try to bring people that have specific expertise to tell again their stories in a more informal way than the technologies that matter and more focused. For those of you interested, on June 21st, we have an event dedicated to life sciences. It will take place in the Bioacademy Auditorium in Athens. You can go online or our website and to find out. And then, for those that have gone through these steps, the last thing we do is we run this startup competition. And there we introduce design in entrepreneurship. And I'm sure all of you will enjoy the 4 presentations by these 4 companies later in the afternoon. So this is pretty much what we're doing. We're really excited from what we have found out throughout this 3-year period, and we welcome more people to join us.
So following up on the lines of Vasily said, we try to put an order, a kind of an order in the chaos of entrepreneurship in the Greek environment, especially Thessaloniki, which is our focus area. We all know that entrepreneurship was not in the first priority in the people for finding an occupation or making a career in the past years. Now this is changing, but because of the crisis, it is changing in an unstructured way. So we have come to a point which I usually describe as a startup-itis, because I have this medical influence, although I'm an engineer myself, I've been working for the last 25 years with doctors, everything I tend to medicinize. So we have this startup-itis, which there are a lot of people that they understand that becoming a public servant in Greece is no longer the ideal career for you, and they look into becoming an entrepreneur, starting their own company, but because we lack this culture in our families, in our educational institutions, we don't educate our children, nor our students in the universities, on what is exactly involved into creating a company, and what skills you need, what qualities you need, and things like that. So we'll try to fill in the gap and put some order, as I said, in this chaotic situation. Just 2 examples. One of the things that we do is we run an acceleration program that we called up to now Testing Hub, but now it's growing bigger and becoming more collaborative effort, and you listen more just after this session from Simon Besson from the city of Thessaloniki on what we're trying to do on KFS, as we call it now, which is mostly, as Vasily said, to coach, mentor, and help young and not so young people that want to turn their idea into a company. The other thing that we do is we try to support bottom-up initiatives in the city that open the dialogue and again I will say what Vasily said, having a more open discussion and bouncing of ideas on what is going on, what is the pros and the cons, the bad and the good things around becoming an entrepreneur, and thus we try to support initiatives like SKG Startups, the Open Minds, Open Coffee, and others, agri-business, I think, that are mostly people that they come together because they want to discuss and they want to listen to others talking about it and sharing opinions and ideas. So these are two examples of what we do along these lines.
I'm just curious about something, because I think that in Greece you have this culture of entrepreneurship and startups from different reasons, and I think, you know, just from outside that's very unique to have that almost in your DNA, because if you look at larger corporations today, more traditional, what they are fighting is to become entrepreneurial, and what they need is definitely to have that startup mentality in their development. So I'm just thinking about, you know, we talk about ecosystem, and a lot of great things is going on, especially this project we're doing, Design for Europe, where we visit different destinations. I'm always amazed, of course, how much is going on, but how well are the dots connected, so to speak, and how well are the infrastructure? Is it transparent, and do you and you work together, or and kind of, you know, just try out collaborations? Comment on the question mark.
Well, you're quite right. There are these qualities in the Greek culture and the Greeks themselves. We have the reputation of being clever people, and entrepreneurial. We have clever people in the government as well, and we don't like each other. We don't like each other. So there is a clash between clever entrepreneurs and clever politicians. And until some things change, we will suffer. That's my experience of many years in the business. Mr. Angelis was quite right in saying, you know, the entrepreneurial attitude was under attack in this country for many years, because the politicians think that the entrepreneurial side was much too clever. Anyway, to make a long story short, right now I think what I would call a better word for the government and the political situation in Greece today, otherwise the crisis is a very representative approach, is that they are inefficient. As far as the private sector and the entrepreneurial attitude is concerned, we have an efficient political system, which is changing, thank God. And it is changing fast, and it is changing towards the direction of, towards a more entrepreneurial direction. They start liking us a little bit more. They started accepting that profit is not really a crime, and that at the end of the day, you know, it is the profit that creates jobs and creates innovation. So I think at the end of the day, because of our culture, which goes back thousands of years, as you know, and because we have this feeling, this instinct of survival through so many different eras and occupations and things like that, I think that at the end, I think that common sense will prevail, which is we're well seated into the Greek culture, and also what we say in Greek, there is a step-by-step methodology, and this goes quite well together with the design methodology, to come to that, which I believe, and the more I talk to our people and about design, the more I believe that it is closer to the Greek mentality, closer to the Greek entrepreneurship, and eventually it will go into the political system as well, as it is changing. So we will have quite a few difficulties I believe in our country to push the design methodology, especially where it really is needed. And to my opinion, where it's really needed is in the services of the government itself, and the services of governments or municipalities. I wish our mayor was here today, because we could really, he is a designer himself. He is a person that could really implement the design methodology, and if he comes, I will tell him so. But I think coming now to KEPA, to our organization, I believe that we have made a plan over the last 2 to 3 years. I'm new as the chairman, but the KEPA has worked already for 3 years in design methodology. And we are in close cooperation with the municipality of Thessaloniki and with our main stakeholders are the Industry Federation and the Exporters Federation. And really what I would like to see happening is that this design methodology is privately sponsored. It is, and when I say privately, I include the municipality as well, because you know that is quite an independent body that can actually follow rules and instructions in a different way. So what we will try to do is, as KEPA, is work together with our stakeholders, the industry and the exporters and the municipality, and try to see if we can put some rules into what design methodology is, what is the ecosystem, cooperate with structures like the Innovation Zone or MIT, put them all together, try to form a common opinion of what innovation are we looking for, what is really better for us, where are we good, where are we not good, what are our competitive advantages, in which sectors, in what areas. And I firmly believe that there are several sectors that can really benefit from design methodology, including tourism and culture. It's not only agriculture and making airplanes, but I'm sure we could have an innovative system of opening our museums all the week long with so many 25 million tourists, and half of the day the museums are closed because the people are not there on time to guide. So I think that we are already in good discussions, and we will certainly need a lot of the organizations that are around this in this room that have the experience, and together with the organizations that are already cooperating in Thessaloniki, I believe that we can be a catalyst for creating the basis of design methodology and spread it over to the companies and to the services of the state and the municipality.
Since we touched the issue of networking platforms, exchange of ideas, experience, I think we have to give also credit to the self-organized initiatives that the ecosystem has sprawled by its own. So you have the creative communities, you have the tech communities, you have the entrepreneur communities, that they organize in their own tools in order to exchange ideas, learn from each other, and communicate their methods. And I think that this is equally important, and that has to go in line with the institutional efforts from different bodies that they create their own schemes to really synthesize on the efforts that without any formality are happening. That's like that. And they're quite effective as well.
Getting the books. I'd really like to thank you all for this discussion. And if I can keep one thing, it's a call to action, and maybe we can share that. What if, for the next step, I'd like to really work with you. We all try to have an open day and bring companies, the companies that are in your networks, your respective networks, degrees, designers, and panels maybe can, bring that community, so that they're just a chat to begin with. And then, based on other countries' experience and so on, I think a lot of things are going to come up. So Can you do that?
Yeah, I think we can do that. I think one of the basic principles of design is presenting something to somebody else and hearing the feedback. And this is the point we're missing from the DNA. We got the rest of the part. We're not very good with getting... So it will be obviously very important to organize this kind of stuff and get it. And one of the things we're trying to do at Enterprise Forum is promote entrepreneurship in forms of 2 people or more. So, I mean, you enforce a policy that we don't accept any startups in our competition that have single founders. Of course, there's a lot of ingenuity, and people bring their cousins, brothers, you know. But sometimes, and we have an exception here, these 2 brothers over there, they do a great job, but in other cases, so I think the feedback part has to be more of an important issue among the people doing design, either as entrepreneurs or creative, because, you know, I heard a story from an Israeli entrepreneur that they have a designer in their company that sees very, very strong opinion. So if she makes something blue and they think it has to be red, they don't tell her. Next day they organize and they wear all red T-shirts and go to the office. You know? So we have to stop doing that. We have to be more in the discussion and listen to one another.
Yes, I think it's a very good idea. Also because, as I said, for SMEs and especially startups, it's very difficult to have access to this type of expertise and people, or even the discussion around it, what design exactly is. And I'm educating myself today on how broad the concept of design is. I haven't realized until today. As far as we are concerned, we are very much eager to support such an open day.
2 yeses. 2 yeses.
I joined too, but I think that is also key. I know that there are some there's talk going on about also having a design center here, and what is that future role, and something that we are very keen at in the Danish Design Center, and what is our future role, because we've been promoting and do support programs and matching companies with designers. I think our future role is about facilitate the meeting, and it seems extremely banal, but you know, just from having people going into the same room. I know we don't have the American culture of just going up to each other, so we need to facilitate that people do meet about something. And it's also, I have some questions about all the trainer program. I mean, you get educated, but you need to try things out at the same time. So, you know, just try to make interesting partnerships. The world is complex. Nobody can do anything alone, and you need to know what you're good at, and then the people. So if you can facilitate those meetings, I'm positive that very interesting things are going on, and I expect your company and your company to start doing something together, right?
Why not? It's a unanimous yes, I think, Aphrodite. It's, I think that there could not be a no in this approach. I think that we at KEP were very fortunate to have most of our partners disciplined in the northern European sort of style, and we are quite disciplined as well for the last 3 years, and we expect that we continue like that. So I think that yes, we have to face it seriously. Our group in KEPA has done quite a fantastic job until now. They are pragmatic, and I think with cooperations like people that are around the table and our exporters and industrialists, what else do you need? I mean, you designers, I said around the table, you just have to add a little bit of the university as a source, and we have in Thessaloniki, as you might have heard, the largest university, not only in Greece, but in many other parts of Europe. We have 100,000. Every 10 people, there's one student in Thessaloniki. So there are all the ingredients there, and we have got to make it happen.
Our organization is called Creative Platform. It's a platform that people meet, ideas exchange, and knowledge is shared. But I would like also to put forward an idea. A meeting like this, in order to be successful, it has to be very well prepared. And what I mean by that is that it should approach by offering a solution to a specific problem, or try to connect nodes that should be connected and somehow they are not. And for example, one idea that we want to push very much forward is to see the local hotel business, to get to know the local designers in order to buy from them services and products, and that way differentiate in the touristic market, opening a flag, telling them a flag that Thessaloniki, Greece, has a good design scene, that this can show also into the tourist market. So with this kind of approach, we will achieve more, I think.
Well, thank you all again very much, and I think we can move on to the next part of our program. Thank you for listening.
Okay, guys. While the panelists are going down, I would like to hold on, go physically sitting down together. I would like to call our next speaker with the municipality of Thessaloniki, Simos or Simon? Simos Bensasson, right. Okeites is going to present us Okeites. Prior to being elected member of the city of the Thessaloniki City Council, he worked as an architect in Zambia and Spain and here, founded companies in the UK, worked for the European Union, then retired and came back. So, please, the floor is yours.
Talk about OKSS. Now, for you who wonder what OK doesn't mean that everything is all right. OK stands for the Greek initials of ecosystem or kenotomias, which means innovation ecosystem. And this is particularly important because everything is not right. I'm not going to just talk about OKSS generally, but I'm going to try to put the design perspective, especially given that I've been in design for the last 50 years or so. Don't be misled by my youthful looks for all that period of time. Now, in design and in deciding the structure of OKSS, what is the thing that has played the most important role? That was the problem definition to start with. The problem definition was unemployment. And I think that a lot has been said that includes some things. So, to answer partly what Madam Melanda asked regarding the innovative spirit of Greek entrepreneurs, the unemployment problem of the Greek crisis has caused a huge number of people to emigrate away from Greece. And these were the most entrepreneurial persons, hence they're emigrating, the most entrepreneurial persons, and really the elite of the most educated part of society. The result is that what we have is an unemployment situation that's very hard to reverse unless you go with new companies, entrepreneurship, innovation, and of course I take design to be, I take it for granted that design is an essential part of innovation if it is to succeed. Now, in looking at that, initially as a city, we saw, well, this is a thing we have to do something about. And then we said, when we looked at the situation in reality, we said there's nothing we can do as a city alone. The situation is highly fragmented. There are companies that provide from anything from innovation hubs to incubators to places where they provide cooperative co-working spaces and so on, but there is no cohesion between those things. There is no ecosystem, and especially the situation is extremely weak when it comes to venture capital, to investment. And of course, investment has to be found in an extremely hostile environment. And the extremely hostile environment, I think, is the answer to Madame Melander's thing, which is why should an investor invest somewhere where the taxation system is as unpredictable as it is, where the bureaucracy is absolutely labyrinthine, and where the system of justice would be challenged by a snail, being that slow. So one has to find solutions and find competitive advantages where there are few. And of course, the main competitive advantage in a place like Thessaloniki are the 4 higher education establishments that produce something like, well, make sure that there is a very youthful population in the city with well over 100,000 students at any one time. So that is the one advantage that we have. And so we attempted to bring together the various actors in this process. The city is one, the industrial organizations like the Association of Exporters of Northern Greece, the Association of Industrialists of Northern Greece, the 4 higher education establishments, and the innovation zone that Annelies talked about earlier, and try to coalesce them into an ecosystem. And of course, in this, we try to cooperate also with design organizations like EPA and so on. Now, our first focus is the creation of a pre-incubator. A pre-incubator is, we talk about something that covers primarily the Death Valley, or somebody put it the other day, not the Death Valley so much as the Dead Sea. There are slightly different nuances between those two things. And this is the area where, which on the whole, very few investors we sort of touch. Leaving, the next step, which is the actually proper investment, so to be done by industry itself, by investors who invest purely on business grounds. You might say that if the focus of an investor is success, or of an incubator is success, the focus of a pre-incubator is failure. What we want is to make sure that if something doesn't work, shouldn't live very long. Let's filter out failure as soon as possible, so that the person who fails is prepared in a nice way, so the person who fails is prepared to do his next or her next innovation. There's nothing worse than a slow failure. You work on something for 5 years, only to find out it was the wrong decision in the first place, and then you're dead. So this is a different, and that is also a design feature, if I may say. And this is where investment comes into the judgment of the investors. At the end of the day, is the measure of success or the failure that you promote. In other words, how many people do go on to the next step. Now, I want to say something else, which is that OKFS is a startup. It's a startup for creating startups. As such, so it's not something which is cast in concrete, and the design feature within OKFS, in other words, the startup for creating startups, is the following. We are not designed like a GOS plan, a 5-year Soviet plan, which is to say, well, this is what we're going to do in the next 5 years, come rain or high water. It is designed in such a way that feedback is the essential element of it. Or if I may say so, apologetically perhaps, the feedback will be the essential element of it. It's already been that at the slightly higher level, which is that of designing the system in the first place. It will have to be the same thing at the even latest phase of actually adapting to what is needed. So to my mind, design in that sense is a combination of top-down and bottom-up. You need the top-down in order to decide where it is that you want to go. And you need the bottom-up to decide whether two things. A, is it a good idea to go that way? And secondly, if you're going that way, which is the best way to achieve that? From that point of view, we see OKFS as a learning organization that adapts and learns as it goes along. Now, but then comes the most important thing, which is the people who are going to be bred within OKFS. There are two things that I'd like to say to that. One is, and the concept was already mentioned, which is that of training the trainers. We consider that to be fundamental, and we consider that that is a process that has to be looked at all times. Secondly, it is the process of getting feedback from the grassroots. And by that, I don't mean only the people who come to OKFS, but those who don't, including those who leave the country and would like to know why it is exactly that they left. We know roughly, we do know more or less why they left, but we'd like to know exactly why they left. So feedback is essential. Also, training is an essential part and an ongoing will be all the time. In other words, we envisage to have at least one seminars on a weekly basis and so on, and repeating themselves because the population inhabiting the OKFS is going to be changing one. And finally, why is a pre-incubator contribute to an ecosystem? Well, there are two reasons. I'll give two examples. There are no, I can't measure the reasons because there can be many of those, and it's not just incubator. Number one, a pure example. In the end of the day, as I said, it's the market who is going to decide success or failure, and the market here is the investors. You have various organizations, which, as I said, they do not coalesce. If you have 5 candidates for investment, if you're an incubator, you have 5 candidates for investment within the last 3 months or the last 6 months, and try to attract investors in the pitching session, you're going to fail. Because nobody's going to be interested in listening to 5 ideas, of which one might be successful, one might be a good one, and there are 3 or 4 investors there to fight over the one that's worthwhile. On the other hand, if you gather all of the organizations within the city that have somebody to present to investors, and you gather 20 or 25 potential firms, potential companies, or potential innovators, then you can attract a much larger number of investors because there's bound to be some good within such a large number. Another example, well, it's not exactly an example, is that while there isn't a pre-incubator, but there isn't somebody catering for the Death Valley, then the numbers reaching the higher levels are very, very limited. By having somebody to cover the Death Valley, you increase the numbers, and this is how natural evolution works. You generate a lot of ideas which would not have been generated otherwise in order for selection to take its course. So, as I said, to close, it has to be a combination of top-down and bottom-up, and if we don't do that, we end up with what the current situation is, which is the undesirable bottom-down approach. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm tempted to make a very quick comment. But it's also like in Greece, it's the institutionalization of initiatives, meaning that when the mayor changes, the municipality changes, or the city council changes, then you start from scratch. So that I'm sure you've already thought of that, but that should be built in.
Yes,
such
in
initiatives.
fact, I was talking to somebody this morning about catch milk reports. This is something that is a great concern of mine, and I want to make sure that it
stays behind.
Yeah.
Right. Thanks for listening. Now we're moving to the next speaker, and what is our second and final case study of the day. Δρομέας, Mr. Grigori Zarougiadis. Grigori is an independent, non-executive member of the board at Δρομέας, which most of you will know is one of the most successful Greek manufacturers of office furniture, partition walls, and filling systems. He has a track record as an academic, as I read here. Grigori, the floor is yours, please.
Thanks a lot, and thank you for inviting me and giving me the opportunity to contribute to this very interesting conference or workshop or nice group of people that are going to discuss about things which are very important, taking also this opportunity from what I heard previously, not only for the development of Greek firms and Greek manufacturers, but also for the development of the Greek economy. I'm always in a difficult situation when I'm trying to choose with which identity to speak mostly, having on the one hand the academic one, and on the second the identity of being a member of the board of a privately owned manufacturer. But actually this is a very creative dilemma most of the times, and I will try to show it in the things that I'm going to discuss with you. Also I'm in a difficult situation because, as I understood, I'm the final speaker before the lunch break, so I kindly ask you to show your kindness, okay? All right, now, first of all, in order trying to be much more faster than compared to what I prepared, I'm going to change a bit the sequence of the things that I would like to discuss with you and present, starting, this will stay as it is, with the main horizontal comparative advantage of the Greek economy, of Greece, and the significance of design which is related to that. Moving on afterwards, specifically to the case of Δρομέας, and perhaps trying, in a few words, to end up with the two macro policy proposals, specific proposals that are in the middle of this row. So, the main horizontal comparative advantage of Greece is actually the fact that we are living in a very narrow spatial space which concentrates accumulated multiversity in the sense of geomorphological diversity, of climatic, social, cultural, productive, traditional diversity. This, if we combine this with the qualitative human resources, which is actually a fact, and the existing infrastructure of research and higher education institutions, along also with the geostrategic position and the historical socio-economic attributes of the land, then this comes to a straightforward result that Greece could be, perhaps is better said, suitable for production of low scale, but of high degree of quality and specialization, as well as for developing the sector of credit economy on the other hand. So in few words, Greece as a vision could become a global laboratory of for research and for developing specialized qualities, as well as an international hub for mobility of humans, goods, capital, and ideas. In this context, towards this vision, design is of great importance for two reasons. Both because it is a crucial part of what we used to call creative economy, and second, because it is an essential element of the process and product development, especially for a region, for a economic and for a socio-economic system, which, as I said before, is built therefore in order to create specialized high qualities of low scale. I mean, in the quality of production. As a bridge towards the presentation of Δρομέας, and a small, perhaps, way of contributing to relevant literature, I think that we can distinguish among three types of innovators or designers, or better said, three types of institutions, private owned but also public ones, who innovate. First of all is the category of imitators, those who adopt and integrate, perhaps even slightly differentiating the innovations that are being developed by others. Secondly is what we could call those who are conditional innovators, in the sense that they do autonomously develop their products and services, but following and responding to the expressed customer needs. And the third category is an innovator pioneer, those pioneers which also do autonomously develop their products and services, but in a pioneering way that reforms most of the time the habits and the behaviors of consumers and the consumer community. Dromeas is a typical case of an imitator that evolved into an innovator, yet a conditional one for the moment, and we hope that in the next future it will be also an innovator pioneer. When I'm saying that, I mean that Dromeas went in the last years, in the last decade, through a period of extroverted development, oppositely to the previous period where our orientation was strongly in the internal market. And this by acquiring, by getting the possibility of setting up business-to-business, B2B partnerships of emblematic significance, and also by the assignment of large-scale projects. As we did these things, at the beginning we were a typical imitator, in the sense that we were able, we got the capability of monitoring and gradually integrating innovations of others in terms of technical, safety and sustainability issues, as well as in terms of product-specific features. Doing that, we got an experience how to, with respect to the trends of the needs, the necessities in the consumer community that refers to our products. And therefore, we got an experience of the general trends of the market, but also, which is very important, we got the experience of how to deal with the technical and organizational prerequisites for the necessary certification, because it is one thing to be able to develop the products and the services that are being demanded by the market, or that will be demanded by the market, but another thing is to have them certified in the appropriate way in order to be recognized as soon as possible by the consumers and the consumer community. So having these abilities that were gained through our previous period of being a very successful imitator, as well as the specific needs that defined in the relevant tenders of big customers, we were able to evolve, as it is the case in our days, into a successful conditional innovator. An innovator that follows autonomously the demands and the needs of big customers or of the consumer community. As an example, having this ability, we were able to, in the last 2 years, or in the last 5 years, to get also the German Army need, to gain and to realize projects of really huge emblematic significance and also of huge economic significance. For instance, becoming the executive supplier of the European Commission, of all the agencies of the European Commission, over the period of 2009 till 2020 right now, putting them together on the whole around 10 million of projects realized for the German Army, of furnitures that are needed by them, and also becoming the executive supplier of CERN, of the Institute for Nuclear Research. It is important in order to understand the feeling and the experience that we got out of this procedure to refer to the words of Sakis Parapanagiotou, the chairman and the CEO of the company. According to his view, there are 3 prerequisites for successful product design. First of all, the case stimuli and the impulses gained through the socialization process. Secondly, the practically oriented creativity. And third, an adequate knowledge of the specific market and products from the history of its evolution till the current trends. Very fast, In order to function as a successful conditional innovator, Tromeas relies on two things. I won't go into details because I said I want to finish as fast as possible for the lunch break to come. The first thing that we
have another one spear.
All right. Then I can take some more. Okay. All right. So the first thing which is very important for us is the organizational structure of procedure and processes that we develop through time in order to deal with the whole process, wider process of developing a product and developing also the services, the process itself. This is it's a very crucial, very central part of our total quality management system. It's not so important to go into details what it deals with, but important is perhaps to present the second thing that is very important for us. And actually, besides the organizational structure that has been developed through time in the last decade, also the relevant machinery and equipment and the investments that are lying behind those, control machines and calibrated product certification equipment, 3D prototyping equipment, specific equipment for specific measurements, as you see in the list here. And I wanted also to go into some more details about the usage of the new technology. We had also the opportunity to speak about that in a very interesting, highly related to our discussion conference that realized in the previous month in the International Hellenic University, the Conference of Designing Creative Synergies. And as we spoke about this also there, the usage of the utilization of the modern technology is very important because it gives also to small and medium-sized enterprises and manufacturers the ability of efficiently and effectively developing new products. What I mean by that is, for instance, through the 3D prototyping process and machinery, we are able to get a flexibility and adaptation to the customer needs, which is because of the fact that the products or the samples produced through this procedure are well to fit in the final products, at least for the tests that have to be done, and also because of their functionality. So it is very important for us to be able, very flexibly and very, very fast, to respond to the specific needs that are being published over a tender that we see, and we have to deal with that within a month, for instance. A 3D prototyping system enables us to be very fast and to be very efficient compared also to bigger manufacturers which have a strong experience and a stronger and much wider developed department for R&D. Now, in order to proceed and to become, to go also in the third stage of maturation, becoming an innovator pioneer, what we realize that we need is that we need, in a way, a networking with academic institutes, research centers, existing facilities and production units of other colleagues, of other manufacturers in the area, and perhaps thereby the usage of a forum where we can meet with those people and discuss. In a way, it is similar to what was the conclusion of the previous panel. Now, going back and relying on these realized necessities in order to help us ourselves and perhaps other manufacturers as well to go the third step from being a conditional innovator to becoming an innovator pioneer. I think that there are two macro policy proposals which are quite important, speaking both as responding to my academic role, but also to the role of the board of Tromeas, because it's a discussion that goes on also within the company. The first is the importance of a national plan for the promotion of certification with two different aspects. The first aspect is to have a central government initiative that will promote, not saying requiring, but promote the control calibrated certification of products and services traded in the internal market based on the European standards. It's a matter of protection of the internal market and the Greek consumer, but also a matter of indirect motivation for the development of specialized, well-targeted, quality products and services by the Greek producers. And thereby, it's a very strong way of strengthening the competitiveness of Greek industries and producers in the international market in the medium run. Especially when we keep in our minds that, as I said before in the beginning, for us, for me, the major horizontal comparative advantage of the country is the fact that it concentrates a multi-diversity of qualities. The second aspect of this national plan for the promotion of certification is to develop at the regional level networks of coordinated utilization of existing testing, measuring and controlling structures and equipment that exist in several production units in each region. Like the Romeas, I'm sure, and we much know, there are a lot of producers which have different machineries, structures, equipment for testing, for developing, for measuring, for being able to certify and to test the specific qualities that are being developed. If we would be able to create, to work upon an administrative coordination of those regional existing facilities through an authority that will be developed in, for instance, in the region of Central Macedonia. This could be a way to utilize the existing facilities on the one hand, and on the other also to give the ability to the local producers to certify as fast as possible the qualities that they develop. I just wanted to mention that the creation of such a network was prepared in the frame of a working group as a concept note for a proposal for the Juncker Fund for Strategic Investments. And the final issue that I want to present, the second macro policy proposal, is something that resulted again out of the series of the 3 Designing Creative Synergies conferences that I mentioned before. And I'm sure that this relates, and we have to find the logic line that connects them with the proposal and the perspective of creating a developing design center, is a proposal for the creation of a creativity forum for Thessaloniki and the wider region of Central Macedonia, a forum that may serve as a website, an electronic communication and meeting place for having an integrative and multiplicative linking of individual initiatives from the side of the creative economy, but also from the side of the actual production activities. Thank you very much for your attention.
Our last presentation before the lunch, and I know that's going to make you very happy, is one very much focused on the future. Anna Witcher, right? Okay, so Anna is head of policy at the International Design and Research Center of the Cardiff Metropolitan University in Cardiff, where else? She delivers training and projects on design in the public sector and coordinates European projects on design policies and programs. Her presentation is titled Trends in Design and Business.
Right, so before I start, I have a little exercise for you. Hopefully the key message that you've taken away from this morning is that design is all about involving your users. So today, you are my users, and I'd like to understand a little bit more about you. So could everybody please stand up? I'm really curious to know how many people in the room are professionally trained designers. So if you're not a professionally trained designer, please can you sit down? Yes. Yes, you are. Yes. Okay, that's really fascinating because we've been hearing a lot about ecosystems and the balance of supply and demand. So clearly there's an issue of supply of designers in Greece. Can I ask you all to stand up one last time? Now I'm curious curious to see what the demand side looks like. So if you own a company, please can you remain standing? So if you work in the private sector, remain standing, and if you don't, can you please sit down? Well, that's absolutely fantastic. There are so many people here from the private sector taking time of their day to come to this event. So that's brilliant. Thank you very much. If you sit down. So to me, what that illustrates... No more standing. No more standing. So to me, what that really illustrates is this issue of supply and demand for design in Greece. So clearly there's great appetite and will to understand more about how design can drive innovation. Perhaps now we need to look at that skill set, how we can actually develop a core competence for design in Greece. And that was actually something that John picked up on this morning, the fact that perhaps down the line there is this crisis in design education and the supply of design expertise. So that's just food for thought for the lunch break. I appreciate that I am the last person who's speaking before lunch, so I will be very brief. I would like to just present 4 trends in design and business. Okay, so the first trend is about design and big business. And there's a huge trend towards enormous companies buying design agencies to incorporate those external design expertise in-house within their R&D departments and personnel departments. The second trend that I'll be presenting looks at design and small businesses and how small businesses are transforming their business models using design, moving from a product-based business model to a service-based business model. Thirdly, as we've heard this morning, governments are really recognising the power of design for innovation. And there are so many business support programmes across Europe which now incorporate design. And these range from mentoring programmes to grants and subsidy schemes. And I'm going to present a case study of our programme in Wales. And finally, design for policy. So it's crucial that design should be integrated into innovation policies and innovation strategies across Europe at national, local and regional levels. And I'm going to present again some trends on this topic. Oh, the thing's not responding. Oh, okay, so design and big business. Since 2010, in 3 years, 27 companies that were founded by designers have been taken over by big businesses such as Yahoo, Facebook and Google. And this is a trend that is spreading not only in America but also across the UK. Enormous companies are trying to build their internal design capabilities by training staff in design methods so they can bring design and innovation to their daily work. But also, on top of this, as John already mentioned this morning, many of the world's fastest growing companies are headed up by designers such as Airbnb and Uber. Crucially, this decision to embed design in the strategy, in the DNA of companies, involves a step change. It really involves bringing designers to the top level of decision making, so involving designers in the boardroom and in those strategic decisions that get made in those big companies. This is also filtering down to smaller companies, and what I want to do is just to give you a very quick overview of the design process. So many design processes exist. I'm sure every design agency will have its own design process. You've probably heard about lots of different design processes. But I'm going to present our design process at PDR in Cardiff. And it's a 3-phase process, and each stage involves 3 stages, so there's 9 stages overall. Crucially, fundamentally, you need to understand what the challenge is. Framing the challenge is actually much harder than you think, and very often what you think might be the challenge actually is not the challenge at all. The challenge is actually much further up the pipeline. And that is crucially why you need to involve users in understanding what the challenges are, the challenges that they face. So step 2 is analysing user needs, so actually understanding what the drivers and barriers are for users in using the product or service. Stage 3 is observing users in what they consider to be the natural environment for how they might use a product or service. Because if you ask somebody how they exercise or how they get to work, actually the reality is what they do in reality might be very different to what they tell you that they think they do. And that all contributes again to redefining and reframing that challenge. The second phase is about co-creation. So it's actually, again, involving users in co-creating the service concepts or product concepts. And fundamentally, that involves testing those prototypes with users. So prototyping is about using, can be low fidelity prototypes to enable rapid change, rapid development. So you might create thousands of prototypes before you create your prototypes, your high fidelity prototypes. And then again, it's about observing how those users interact with those prototypes so you can mitigate the risk of bringing those products or services to market. And stage 3 is the delivery and evaluation process. So it's really crucial that you involve users in that feedback loop to refine the product and service concepts. And fundamentally to evaluate. I think sometimes designers are not always the best at evaluating the impact of their work. And we talked before about what the challenges might be for why design perhaps had a lower profile before. And I think that it's definitely to do this evaluation and demonstrating the evidence. But now we have got that evidence basis, and I think that we need to make a real drive, a real effort to evaluate the projects that we're all involved in. Design and small business, as I mentioned, there's a big trend moving from product-based business models to service-based business models. Christina already mentioned it this morning, the design ladder, which looks at how companies use design, whether it's at step 2, just design and styling for branding and communication projects, or whether design is part of certain parts of the product development or service development process, or whether it really is part of the DNA, part of the ethos, part of the fabric of the company as a whole, and that is the highest level. So I just wanted to present the figures for last year's Innobarometer, which Xavier mentioned this morning, and the new results will be coming out very soon. So it's really intriguing to see, according to a survey among European SMEs, that apparently more than half of European companies don't use design at all. And 14% consider design as styling. 18% have design incorporated into aspects of their product development process. And only around 13% are using design at that highest level. And as you can see, that's actually a very similar state of affairs for the US. This is an SME in Wales. This is a hydrogen car manufacturer that we are doing some work with at the moment. And we're doing work with them to use design to change their business model. When this car will be produced, the user, the driver, will not own the car. They will lease the car from the manufacturer. But that's not new. We've all heard about leasing models. What's new is that the manufacturer will also not own the car. The manufacturer is leasing all of the components, the thousands of components that make up that car, from their own suppliers. So that ties in with what John was saying about Rolls-Royce and the issues of supply chain. So the manufacturer is leasing the products, the components from their suppliers further down the line. Business support. So last year, 12 of the 28 European member states had business support that incorporated design as part of their offering to support companies to be innovative. And as I mentioned, this ranges from mentoring, which can be very light touch, to very in-depth one-year support with a design manager. Or it can be funding in the form of subsidies and grants and tax credits. And I think that the work that KEPA does in financing businesses is absolutely amazing. And if you are interested in using funding mechanisms to help your companies, definitely speak to KEPA. I'm going to give you a very quick overview of a case study that we have in Wales. So we run a service design programme which supports companies from the traditional manufacturing sector to make that transition from being a product-orientated company to being a service-orientated company. And the case study that I'd like to present is a very high-tech company that does water purification. So they have a system which purifies water, and they have big clients like Shell. And what they used to do was used to go onto their client's site, install this enormous bespoke water purification unit, and that installation process could take weeks, and it was incredibly disruptive for their clients. And they used to have, so they had a really, really amazing product, but the service offering often left the client very disillusioned and frustrated. So we worked with them, so by involving people at the top level of the company, right through down to the installation team, the marketing team, the finance team, somebody from every aspect of the company. We looked at what the key issues were, and we involved them, we facilitated a process for them to generate new product and new service ideas. And as a result of that design process, they developed a leasing model. So now they have a containerized water purification unit, which they install on their client's site. And instead of it taking weeks or months to install, it literally takes 48 hours. So the citizen satisfaction, the customer satisfaction is obviously much higher. But also, not only have they developed a new product, they've also developed a new service. Because previously, they would sell the technology and then just leave. And the client, if the client had a problem, if it broke, they'd have to have a new contract to be able to fix it. Now, instead of selling the product, they're selling a 5-year service. So now the client has an ongoing relationship with the company that does the water purification, which has totally transformed their business model. Finally, one of my key areas of interest is how we can encourage government to recognise the value of design and integrate design not only into innovation policy, but across different policy domains as an enabler of innovation. So in the last few years, a number of national governments have developed design action plans, such as Estonia, Denmark, Finland, France, Latvia, and Ireland. So very recently I've been working with the Irish government to support them in developing a design action plan. So what I really hope, perhaps then, the next time I come to Greece, ideally next year maybe, there'll be perhaps a design action plan for Greece as a result of their engagement, KEPA's engagement with Design for Europe. So yeah, that's what I want to say. Thank you very much.
Again, very, very interesting. I know you're all, for sure, you're all very hungry, so I'll keep the Q&A, but only give 5 minutes of Q&A. If there are questions, I'm going to take only 2. We still have some of our panelists here and the speakers, so if you have any questions, chat box is yours. If not, I mean, if you have questions to ask, if not, then... No questions? Okay then. Let's go to lunch. Let's come back at 2:45, 2:50. Okay, good. 2:50.